The Galactic Union, an alliance of advanced alien species, had endured countless millennia of peace. War was a distant memory, and the idea of violent conflict was almost unthinkable. The various races of the Union had long since evolved past their more primal tendencies. Diplomacy, trade, and mutual cooperation had kept the peace, but no one expected the abyssal horde. Appearing from the edges of the known galaxy, the horde was unlike anything the Union had encountered. They were a ravenous, unstoppable force that consumed entire star systems, obliterating worlds without remorse or reason. No weapon, no tactic, no diplomatic envoy could stop their relentless march. As one world after another fell to the abyss, fear gripped the galaxy. The Union's fleets, accustomed to centuries of peacetime rows, were unprepared for the scale of destruction. Desperation set in. Species that had never experienced combat found themselves at the mercy of a seemingly invincible enemy. And so, with no other options, the Galactic Union turned to the most unlikely saviors, the Deathworlders. Humanity. To most of the galaxy, humanity was little more than a myth. They hailed from a planet classified as a Deathworld, a planet so hostile, so dangerous, that most Union species couldn't even comprehend surviving there. Earth, as it was called, had environments ranging from blistering deserts to freezing tundras, creatures with teeth sharp enough to tear through metal, and weather patterns that could flatten entire civilizations. The Union had avoided Earth for centuries, deeming it uninhabitable by any reasonable standard. Yet somehow, humanity thrived. Humans were tough, resilient, and above all dangerous. Their evolution on Earth had forged them into warriors, survivors who had mastered their brutal environment and had carried that strength with them into the stars. While the Galactic Union had evolved into peace, humanity had continued its military traditions, building a fleet capable of surviving in the deadliest regions of space. And now, they were the galaxy's last hope. Ambassador Threats of the Seraphin Confederacy stood on the bridge of the UNS Valhalla, the flagship of humanity's fleet. He was an amphibious alien, with delicate, webbed fingers and pale, translucent skin in stark contrast to the thick-skinned, scarred human crew around him. Their eyes, hardened from years of battle, made him uneasy. The human fleet was small, especially compared to the Union's vast armadas, but it radiated an undeniable aura of menace. Each ship bristled with weapons, and their sleek, angular design spoke of a culture that had perfected the art of war. "Are your people truly ready for this?" Thrix asked, his voice wavering with a mixture of doubt and fear. The captain of the Valhalla, a woman named Commander Aaron Hayes, glanced down at the Seraphin ambassador. She had the look of someone who had seen too much combat, her sharp eyes scanning the battlefield display with cold precision. "We've been fighting for our survival since we crawled out of the oceans," she said calmly. "We've faced enemies you can't even imagine. The abyssal horde may be terrifying, but they bleed, and if it bleeds, we can't kill it." Threx shuddered at the casual way she spoke of violence, but deep down, he was relieved. The abyssal horde had brought death and destruction to countless worlds, but Harry and the bridge of a human warship felt, for the first time, a glimmer of hope. The horde arrived in the Orion Nebula, an ancient Union stronghold that had withstood the test of time for thousands of years. And now, it was the last line of defense for the core worlds of the Union. If the horde broke through here, nothing would stop them from reaching the heart of the galaxy. As the massive, organic ships of the horde began to warp into the nebula, the Union's fleets scrambled to form a defensive line. Thousands of ships, from dozens of species, prepared for the fight of their lives, but they were inexperienced, untested in real combat, and panic spread quickly through the ranks. That's when the human fleet arrived. In perfect formation, the Deathworlder fleet emerged from the stars, engines blazing, weapons primed. The sight of the human ships, dark and menacing, struck fear into the hearts of Union soldiers, but it was a fear tempered by awe. The humans moved with a deadly efficiency, their warships acting as a single, coordinated entity. Commander Hayes' voice boomed across the communication channels. "Calm and collected, this is the UNS Valhalla. All Union ships, follow our lead." The battle that followed was nothing short of chaos. The Abyssal Horde threw wave after wave of monstrous ships at the defenders, each one more terrifying than the last. Union ships crumbled under the onslaught, their shields and weapons unable to match the Horde's brutal strength. But the humans thrived in the madness. Their ships darted through the battlefield, targeting weak points in the Horde's formation, where Union fleets fell back. The human fleet pushed forward, relentless. Their weapons tore through the organic ships of the Horde with a precision that left Thrax speechless. These were not mere warriors, they were predators. As the battle raged, the tide slowly began to turn. Union ships, inspired by the humans' bravery, rallied behind them. The Galactic Union, once pacifistic and fragile, found a newfound strength in the presence of their Deathworlder allies. Hope, long thought lost, flickered back to life. Hours later, as the last remnants of the Horde retreated, the Orion Nebulous stood victorious. The Union had survived, but it was clear to everyone who had truly won the battle. On the bridge of the Valhalla, Ambassador Thrax approached Commander Hayes, his voice trembling with gratitude. You saved us. Humanity saved the galaxy, he said, bowing his head. Commander Hayes looked at him, her expression unreadable. We're not saviors, Ambassador. We're just survivors, and in this galaxy, surviving is enough. Thrax gazed out at the stars, the remnants of the battle still glowing in the distance. The galaxy had changed, the Union had changed, and it was humanity, these Deathworlders from a world of unimaginable danger, what had given them hope. In the end, it was not humanity's strength or violence that saved the galaxy. It was their resilience, their determination, and their refusal to give up, no matter the odds. The Deathworlders had come, and with them, the galaxy found its salvation. The Orion Nebula's victory echoed across the galaxy like a ripple through calm water. News of the human fleet's triumph against the Abyssal Horde spread rapidly, from the shimmering necropolises of the core worlds to the isolated outposts on the galaxy's fringe. Every species in the Galactic Union felt a mixture of relief, awe, and deep contemplation. But the war was far from over. The Abyssal Horde had been pushed back, but they were not defeated. Their forces regrouped in the shadows of Death Stars, preparing to strike again, stronger and more relentless than before. And humanity, the unexpected saviors of the galaxy, now found themselves at the center of a growing alliance that looked to them for leadership. Commander Aaron Hayes stood on the bridge of the Valhalla, watching as engineers and crew repaired the damage from the last battle. The humans had emerged victorious, but not without cost. The Deathworlder fleet had lost several ships, and even more personnel. The Abyssal Horde had proven to be a terrifying enemy, one that could not be underestimated. Ambassador Thrax of the Seraphian Confederacy approached, his posture tense and his elongated, web hands clasped nervously. His amphibious features reflected the dim lights of the bridge, his translucent skin shifting hues as he observed the humans at work. Commander Hayes, Thrax began, his voice softer than usual. The Galactic Council has called an emergency summit. They want to meet with your leaders too. They need to understand how you did it, how you fought them off. They want to learn from you. Hayes didn't look at him immediately, her eyes still focused on the tactical display. The Abyssal Horde's remaining forces were regrouping on the fringes of the galaxy, and she had no illusions that the fight would end anytime soon. You want to know how we won, she said finally, her voice steady. We're not some magic solution, Ambassador. The Union can't just copy our tactics and expect the same results. Thrax hesitated, but surely there's something your people know that we don't, some hidden strength. Hayes turned to him, her expression hard but not unkind. Strength, maybe, but what you're really asking is how we survive. You see, Ambassador, humans are different because we were forced to be. We had to evolve in a world that tried to kill us at every turn. From our earliest history, we've been fighting against nature itself. The Abyssal Horde, they're just another challenge, one more obstacle to overcome. Thrax's large eyes blinked rapidly, his thin body trembling slightly. But how does the Union fight alongside you? We aren't built like you. Our worlds are peaceful. Commander, we've evolved beyond war. And that's the problem, Hayes replied quietly. Your evolution made you soft. You forgot what it means to fight for your very existence. The emergency summit was held aboard the Nexus, the largest space station in the core worlds. It floated above a gas giant, its surface shimmering with energy shields and surrounded by fleets from down scenes of different species. The station was a symbol of the Union's unity, but today, it was a gathering place for fear. Representatives from every corner of the galactic Union filled the Grand Hall, their appearances as diverse as the planets they came from. The Seraphim were there, their amphibious forms standing alongside the insectoid Scythians, the crystalline Notheran, and the bird-like Zelith. The galaxy's most powerful races had come together to hear from humanitide Deathworlders who had done the impossible. Commander Hayes stood at the front of the assembly, flanked by her officers. Beside her was Admiral James Morgan, the head of the Deathworlder fleet. His presence was intimidating, his tall, broad-shouldered figure giving off an aura of command and experience. As the murmurs of the council quieted, High Chancellor Ulysses of the Zelith took the floor. His feathers gleamed with vibrant colors, a display of his species' wealth and status. His voice was melodic but laced with anxiety. Commander Hayes, Admiral Morgan, the Chancellor began, we owe your people a debt we cannot fully repay. You've saved us from annihilation, and for that, we are eternally grateful. But we face a dark reality. The Abyssal Horde will return. We must know how to stand against them, how to survive as you have. Admiral Morgan took a step forward, his expression unreadable. You're asking for a quick fix, he said, his voice a low rumble. There isn't one. What my fleet did at the Orion Nebula host tactics, that kind of coordination is the result of generations of war. Humanity didn't choose to be fighters. We were shaped by conflict, molded by the need to survive. A low murmur rippled through the council chambers. Many of the species present had long prided themselves on their peaceful evolution, on having left behind the need for violence. A representative from the Otheran, a species composed of living crystals, spoke up. Surely there is some way we can adapt. We cannot let the galaxy fall to the Horde. Must we become like you? Then, violent, war-driven. Commander Hayes met the Otheran's crystalline gaze. It's not about becoming us, she said firmly. It's about finding the will to fight for your survival. You don't have to be like us to resist the Horde, but you do have to understand one thing. Survival isn't guaranteed. You have to earn it, and that means sacrifice, loss, and sometimes doing things you thought were unthinkable. The council fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. As the summit continued, Hayes and Morgan shared battle strategies, tactical formations, and the human philosophy of war. But what lingered in the minds of the council members wasn't the technical details, it was the deeper truth of what humanity represented. They were a species that had embraced struggle, that had learned to thrive in adversity. The Union, on the other hand, had grown complacent. After hours of discussion, the summit adjourned, and the council members began to depart. Some left with newfound determination, while others were clearly shaken. The galaxy had changed, and the Union would need to change with it to face extinction. As Commander Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Nexus, watching the stars stretch out before her, Ambassador Thrix joined her. You spoke the truth today, Thrix said softly, but I fear many of the Union's leaders don't want to hear it. They still believe there is a way to win this without changing who we are.